The following program does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Good afternoon and welcome to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts Fred and Janet Cox right here on Reality Radio 101. To get on board, send us an email. Our email address is liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, right to your host of the Liquid Green Health Show, Fred Cox.
And good afternoon, everyone. Hope that all is well wherever you are. We are here in Eastern Ontario, just east of Toronto. It's Oshawa. And it's 27 days into the month of August, 2023. And this is the Liquid Green Health Show. My name is Fred Cox. My co-host is not here this evening. She's off to another function. Good for her. But I'll be holding the fort down, and we're going to have a nice, good, comfortable conversation. We have 1 hour to unpack lots of stuff. As usual, that hour goes so quickly. We have 5, 6, 10 hours that we have to compile into 1 hour. But with your participation via email, we can get through it. As a matter of fact, we've been started getting a lot of emails, because what we do, folks, we normally send out an email to our listeners informing them as to what the show is going to be all about. And we have got some emails, and not too many people are happy. But hopefully today's topic will not disturb a lot of people, because it's information that some of it you may have already, heard of, and about it. But sometimes it's needed to repeat things that we have already been exposed to, just to regurgitate some of the information. Anyway, my name is Fred Cox, and good afternoon to our listeners and viewers across Canada, the United States, around the world. And thank you once again for allowing us into your private space. Every Sunday at this time, we have a lot of fun on air, because we offer tips to our listeners and our viewers, because some viewers are, cutting into the YouTube thing. And the whole purpose of this is to, it's designed to stimulate the mind and help bring us one step closer to living a healthier lifestyle. This broadcast can be heard later on YouTube or Spotify. All you have to do is to go there and type in Liquid Green Health Show, and it will come up. And once you do that, please like, subscribe, do whatever the buttons are requesting, because it's going to help to boost our show. Lots of information today, as I said earlier. But before I get into that, you remember last week we were talking about members of the family going on this crazy expedition of jumping out of a plane. Well, we went. As a matter of fact, we got up early on Wednesday morning, packed up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we headed out about 6:30 minutes to 7, and headed west on the 401. We had to get there for 10 o'clock. So that's why we left so early, because traffic at that hour in the morning between 6 and 8 o'clock is horrendous in Toronto, folks. If you live in Toronto or outside of Toronto and you're commuting via car into Toronto, you know what I'm talking about. It is horrendous. We need more roadways and, better routes in and out of the city. Anyway, so we went, and it's about 2.5 hours drive from where we're living. And 1 hour into the drive, we stopped and we went into a Canadian Tire because it was raining when we left. And we called to ask if the jump is still on. And they said, yes, there's no rain here. Rain is forecast in the evening. I said, okay, it's raining here, but we'll come. An hour into the drive, got a call that the jump is canceled, right? So we had to turn around and head back home. So no jump was taking place. It has been rescheduled for, I think, sometime in September. I'm not sure the date. It might be the 9th or 10th. I'm not sure. But it's been rescheduled. So we'll keep you up to breast as to what's happening, the crazy people in the family, and who's going to be doing the jump. If anyone else is going to join along with us, we'll let you know. Okay, so that's it for an update on this magnificent jump from the sky. I'm not doing it, folks. I'm just letting the crazy ones do it. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about fish. And as I said, I got some email earlier. Some people saying, damn, that's my favorite meal. I love fish. And this show is going to be a bummer. No, it's not going to be a bummer. It's going to be informative. And you're going to love it. You're going to love what I have to say. So drop us a line. Let us know where you're listening from. And you can do that by writing to Liquid Green Health Show at gmail.com. That's Liquid Green Health Show at gmail.com. Let us know where you're listening from, and give us your comments. Give us your comments, what you like about the show, what you don't like. If you like what you hear, if you like what you've heard in previous shows, and just let us know. So we're going to be talking about fish, as I said, but if we're going to talk about fish, we have to also talk about the fish habitat. We have to talk about what it's like for a fish living where they do live, and what kind of stress they encounter, and why is it that some is good, some fish are good to eat, and some is just simply not good to eat. So those are the things we're going to be talking about today. Fish is supposed to be amongst the healthiest foods on the planet, right? So they say the healthiest foods on the planet, and fish is among that group. Why? Why is it so important that we should pay attention to the type of fish, how it's prepared, and where it's coming from? Not just that, but the habitat in which it is grown, where it is allowed to habitate. Why is it so important? So we want to let folks know that this show is not to condemn anyone who eats fish, not to praise anyone who doesn't eat it, not to throw any disparaging remarks on people that, farm fish for a living and then sell it to the public. It's just to let people know, let our listeners know, that there are some upsides and there are downsides to eating fish. Because as we know, fish is loaded with important nutrients, such as protein, vitamin D, vitamin B12, and it is also a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, which is an essential fat that the body does not produce. We have to get it from other sources, and the best source to get it from is aquatic life. You can also get it from plant, but there are some differences, right? It is important. These are fatty acids that are very important to our body, especially the brain. However, fish, there are actually three sources that you can get omega fatty acid from, and that is fish, plants, and seal, right? And in my opinion, seal oil, and I'm saying this based on factual, documents that are out there, and a lot of people do not know, seal oil is the best form of omega-3 that you can put into your body. Unlike fish, which is chemically altered, seal oil, fish does not include DPA, right? Fish oil also gets rancid. Fish oil has EPA, DHA, but it does not have DPA, right? So if your goal is to dampen or to prevent inflammatory conditions that will bring about things like aches and pains, swelling of the joints, then standard fish oils or fish oil with more EPA may be desired. That's good. However, if you want to improve brain function, if you want to have good absorption of the omega-3 fatty acid, then you need to consider seal oil, since it has the highest concentration of DPA, right? And the seal is both mercury and other toxins. It's free of those toxins, which and it makes the cleanest and healthiest form of omega-3. So you need to consider that, right? Seal oil is also easily absorbed by the body for maximum health benefits. The processing of seal oil is much simpler than fish and seeds, because with seeds, they have to crush the seeds, and there's no one seed that will give you enough omega-3. It's a combination of seeds that will give it to you, like grape seed and grape and flax seed and stuff like that. So they have to crush it, and then once it's crushed, it's a process that it has to go through to clean it up. Seal oil doesn't need all of that. The seal has a natural filtration system in its makeup that makes it a lot easier to clean up the oil. It is thicker and it's purer with very little protein, skin or bone, so that those things does not hamper the extraction. So for your money and for your health, I would say seal oil is a much better choice. So that's it for the differences between fish omega-3 and omega-3 from fish, or rather from the seal. So let's get back to the fish. All right. Now, apart from the culinary versatility of this aquatic food, fish, we find that the fish is in a very, for lack of a better term, in a very complex and advantage and disadvantaged situations, right? And that extends beyond the plate, and it lies deep within the aquatic world where you'll get some of the best fish. The question, however, is, although fish is rich in vital nutrients, in protein, in iron, selenium, omega-3 fatty acids, and other food stuff, the question I want to ask is it necessary for us to have to ingest high doses of mercury and other toxins in order to get these benefits, to get these protein, to get the iron, the selenium, and the omega-3? Is it necessary? Do we have to endure that kind of punishment to the human body? You know, vegetarians, I think they're in a sense pretty smart, because they avoid eating fish. They avoid eating meat or poultry. They don't eat eggs. They don't dairy. They rely solely on vegetables and fruits and vegetables and anything that has nothing to do with dairy and animal products, right? So in a sense, they're smart because they're avoiding it. But at the same time, those foods also go through some kind of stress. They also have chemicals and stuff like that are added to grow. So unless you're very careful and you're very discriminative in picking the foods that you want to eat, you can run into basically the same problem that we as meat lovers and fish eaters that we would experience. So it's all about choices, and it's also about information, gathering the right information and making yourself aware, because information, some people say information is power. I say information is the key to acquiring power. The more information you have is the better you're able to utilize it to get to the source of what you're really looking for. So once you're informed, and that's the whole purpose of this show, is to inform our listeners as to some of the things that they can avoid, or what they can partake on. So where do you find fish? That's another question. If you ask a lot of North American kids where you find fish, a lot of people might say in the supermarket or the fish store. I can remember one time I overheard a parent asking a kid, where do you get milk? And they said, from Becker's. Remember the days of Becker's, the Becker stores? Kid said Becker's, right? That's the convenience store. But in reality, fish is found in water, and there's only two types of water that can be found in. That's fresh water or salt water. But in those bodies of water, there are various habitats that you can find fish. It could be in a pond, it could be in a lake, it could be rivers, right? But those things have become dumping ground, right, for the things that we as humans don't want. We get rid of it. You throw away garbage, you throw away plastic, and you throw away garbage in all forms, whether it's plastic. And speaking about plastics, according to United Nations Environmental Program, up to 12.7 million metric tons of plastic makes its way into the oceans every year. That's a hell of a lot of plastic, folks. 12.7 million metric tons of plastic. And, evidence has shown where not just the fish, but the birds that feed on the fish, sometimes they get caught in it when they dive into the ocean to catch their prey. They get stuck in a lot of these, single-use plastics. In some cases, straws might stick up in the birds. So it's a very dangerous practice that we as humans, we engage in. And then you have oil and gas drilling, you have oil spills, you have noise from shipping, you have military sonar, and this is something I wasn't aware of. I didn't realize that military sonar could be so damaging to aquatic life. And that's one of the reasons I think that sometimes you see or you hear about a shark or a whale that's beached itself, and you want to know why. We blame it on climate change, but it's not really climate change. Those animals in the ocean, they adapt to climate change, but it's the man-made intrusion. Then you have marine construction, all those things that keep going on. We're digging tunnels under the ocean to get from one patch of land to the next. You have bridges that are being put up. They're burying heavy polars into the ground, deep into the sea. Then you have toxic chemicals, all manner of toxic chemicals. There are literally thousands of them, too many to be named. And then you have sunken vessels. Every once in a while, when a ship gets old, what do? They don't just cut it up and get rid of the metal. They sink it. And they're saying, okay, we're sinking it. It's going to create a reef at the bottom of the ocean so that, fish could live. But that metal, that chunk of metal and all the other, material that is used to build that ship has toxins in them, and it has to ooze itself out over a period of time. And what it does, it creates stress. You have human waste, which is another big factor. Human waste, even though the waste is filtered and supposedly, cleaned up before it's flushed into the lake or to the ocean, it's chemicals that's doing it. So you're getting rid of waste and other chemicals, using chemicals, and you're flushing it into the ocean or lake. all of those things. The fish absorb it. They absorb the contaminants such as PCBs, dioxins, and chlorinated pesticides from our water, sediments, and all of those things is food that you have deep feeding fish. You call them ground or bottom feeders. They eat these things and they become contaminated. Along with that, it's the stress, the noise, and from the drilling and the shipping, the ship that pass with these loud engines and propellers that's churning up the ocean, scares the fish away, and it causes stress. Could you imagine if you were living, if in your house, just put yourself in your home, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a tent, whatever, it's your home, it's your private space, and you're constantly bombarded with noise, all kinds of noise, whether it's music, somebody hammering, a car horn blowing. I mean, if you're just playing music, after a certain time, your neighbor complain. The music is too loud, they call the police on you. The poor fish can't do that. They can't do that. They have to live with it. And they have to figure out ways on how to cope with it. And they've been doing that for thousands of years, coping with conditions that are not compatible to their habitat. And so when all of that stress that they have to live through, it causes toxins to be produced in the body. And we have to, we enjoy the meat, but is it good meat, right? That's what you eat. Is it good meat? And we eat it. Now, I have another question here that I need to throw out. How does chemical affect fish? How does chemicals affect fish? That's another big question, right? Because the effects of chemical poisoning from the environment, right? It can pass down. It is said that it can be passed down to several generations, as many as 3 generations, right? And I read this and I said to myself, well, how did they know? How did they know that? How did they know that, right? But a research was done by Oregon State University in the United States, and it was published in the Frontiers in Marine Science. And you know what they did, how they found out? They got an Olympic-sized pool, and they put a few drops, just a few drops of endocrine disruptors that would mimic hormones, right? They put it in the water, and then they put a number of fish in the water, and they decided that they're going to monitor the behavior of the fish for, I think it was like 20 or 25 months. I don't remember how long it was, but it was for quite some time, almost 2 years. And they monitored it. And you know what they found out, to their surprise, is that although it was only the mother, the parent fish that got the treatment, they found out that down to 3 generations of fish were affected by it. That's how bad the chemicals are in the ocean and in the lakes, right? Small fish that get exposed even to very low levels of synthetic endocrine disrupting chemicals are now common in many freshwater sources that can end up passing on the genetic impacts of that chemical to their offspring that were never directly exposed to the same chemicals. That's how effective, that's how bad, that's how damaging these chemicals and other waste matters that we as humans are dumping into something else's backyard, all right? We don't feel it. You don't physically feel it until you eat what they have been exposed to. Because whether you know it or not, you may not be eating the garbage you're throwing away, but you're getting it back in the food that you're putting on your table, and you're seasoning it up, and you say, okay, it sounds good. This is good, right? You love it, right? Now, that effect that I just mentioned, the 3-generation thing, that is equivalent to having grandparents that come into contact with pollutants in their own environment, passing the effects onto their grandchildren. That's how bad the chemical is. And I want you to bear this in mind, folks, whether you eat fish or not. I'm just passing this information on to you so that you know the next time you go into the supermarket or, any grocery store or a fish store to buy fish, be cognizant of what it is you're purchasing, what type of fish that you're buying, because some have a hell of a lot more toxins than some. And with that, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to pass this information. I'm going to take a break and just let you know that you're listening to the Liquid Green Health Show. My name is Fred Cox, and you're hearing us right here on Reality Radio 101. You're going to take a break and come back right after this.
Join the Eco Revolution with the Liquid Green Products Reseller Program. Are you passionate about sustainability? Ready to make an impact while earning extra cash? Then look no further. Get on board with Liquid Green Products and become a part of our reseller program. Why us? We're not just another eco-friendly company. We are a movement for a greener future. Join our reseller program and be an advocate for sustainable living and enjoy the benefits of a profitable business venture. What makes us special? Our eco-friendly products are top-notch, made with plant-based ingredients. They're safe for your customers and the planet. From household to industrial use, we've got the perfect eco solution for everyone. As a Liquid Green Products reseller, you'll make great profits and gain access to our marketing goodies, including product catalogs, promotions, and digital assets. We'll train you on our products so you can impress customers with the benefits. We're all about strong partnerships, so we're here to support your success. Together, we'll create a sustainable future, reduce footprints, and inspire eco-conscious choices that make a difference. To learn more and to sign up for this amazing income potential, please visit our website at www.liquidgreenproducts.com/reseller or call us at 416-460-5645. That's 416-460-5645. Start making a difference and start earning a profit today with the Liquid Green Products Reseller Program, saving the planet with one clean at a time. Welcome back to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts Fred and Janet Cox, right here on Reality Radio 101. Contact us live right now. Our email address is liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. And now, back to your host of the Liquid Green Health Show, Fred Cox.
Yes, folks. Yes. This is the Liquid Green Health Show. My name is Fred Cox. It's just me today, so you got me to contend with for the next few minutes. Don't worry. I'll make it easy on your listening ear. This is the Liquid Green Health Show, and today we're diving into the depths, weighing the pros and cons of modern fish consumption, and navigating the currents of sustainability, ethics, and personal health. It is clear, folks, that our choices regarding fish consumption are far from being a fisherman's tale. So we're going to be talking about all the pros and cons today, why you should be looking at certain types of fish to consume over others. And it's no secret that our lakes, our waterways, or rivers, or whether it's fresh water or salt water, are loaded with chemicals. It doesn't matter which country you're in, because that water in the ocean, it goes all over the place. All right. The Atlantic and the Pacific and the Caribbean seas, they all touch. And the waves makes no distinction. It goes from one to the next, from the ocean to the sea, and from the sea back to the ocean, from the lakes to the ocean, from the rivers to the lakes to the ocean. They all mix up. And so that contamination, even though it may be more perverse in some areas, it still gets to you. And it gets to you, to your table, in many forms. Whether you're going to be taking it in seaweed, you're going to be taking it in lobsters, you're going to be taking it in shrimp, whatever it is, you are going to be affected. So we need to pay attention as to what is going into our waterways, who is doing it. We need to point them out, call them out, and we need to, somebody needs to take action somewhere along the line, because, I don't like the idea of knowing that when I spend my money, I'm buying toxic waste, right? And that's a very crude way to put it. But if the fish is eating toxins and you're going to consume it, you're just as you're getting probably more than what they're getting, because they have a highly concentrated amount that is in their bodies. And when you eat it, you're taking it on. I'm going to explain to you some of the chemicals that are out there that you're likely to get, because these chemicals, we have to be cognizant of what we're allowing to go into the wastewater. In our households, there are a myriad of household and industrial products, including things like cleaning products. You have industrial flame retardants. You have food items. You got toys that are left. Sometimes you go on the beach, right here in Lake Ontario, you go on the beach and you see remnants of toys that are left there. And over a period of time, the tide rises and it washes it back into the ocean. And those toys, those plastic toys, whether it's a spade, a bucket, or in some cases it's a plastic bottle, they are, over a period of time, they break down and they emit toxins. Then you have cosmetics, you have pesticides, and they often leach into water sources where they then accumulate. Even in small quantities, they can have a marked impact on their aquatic life. I was listening to, I think it was CBC, I was listening to a couple of days ago, and they were talking about the amount of waste, plastic waste and other garbage that is in certain parts of the ocean. I forgot their number, but at the time when the interview was being done, the person who was in charge of removing the garbage, they had at that time removed something like, I think it's 2 tons of garbage that they removed in a 6-hour period. That's a hell of a lot of garbage. And I know there's much more. The area, I think it's the size of New Jersey, in a patch of the ocean where you have all of that toxic waste. Now, could you imagine the aquatic life that are sometimes caught up in that trap? They can't get out, but that's a whole another story. Now, continuing on that, contaminated areas. And in contaminated areas, you have bottom-dwelling fish that are especially likely to have very, very high levels of chemicals, because these substances, they settle to the bottom, and that's where the fish feed, right? They settle to the bottom. They are mixed up with the food that the fish is looking for. Fish doesn't know the difference, and the fish eat it, and they become contaminated. And the more they eat, the more polluted they become. When we eat fish taken from polluted waters, we're eating meat that, without a question, is hazardous to our health. And they have, very, very damaging effects. They everything from birth defects, liver damage, cancers, and other serious health problems that we as humans can develop over a period of time. There was a study that found that consuming a single fish, and listen to this, consuming one fish, just one, from the Great Lakes, right? That is, Superior, Ontario, Michigan, any one of those, is equal to drinking 1 month's worth of water contaminated with high levels of forever chemicals. Imagine that. One fish from any one of the lakes, any one of the Great Lakes here in North America, is equal to drinking a month's worth of water contaminated with high levels of forever chemicals. Folks, that is dangerous. That is dangerous. And environmental research journals found that PFAS, and that's a group of chemicals, are widely detected in freshwater fish across the United States. And these are compounds that have been manufactured since in the 40s. So could you imagine, from the 40s up to now, to 2023, those chemicals have been released into our waterways. Could you imagine the amount of contamination in the aquatic life? Now, PFAS they're substances known as polyfluoroalkyl, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, polyfluoroalkyl substances. And they're used widely in consumer products, ranging from, those Teflon cooking utensils, the non-stick cookware, right? They're in there, right? I don't know how many of you have ever seen the movie Painkillers. Good story. If you haven't, take a look at it, right? And they're also in water repellent sports gear, stain-resistant carpets. They're also known as a key ingredient in fire extinguishing foams. And they can accumulate and persist in the human body for very, very long period of time, right? Very long period of time. These compounds have been found in all 5 Great Lakes, which is Erie, Huron, Michigan, Ontario, and Lake Superior. And they don't degrade naturally in the environment, and they move freely in water. So unlike contaminants such as PCBs that stick to sediments, which is the ground of the lake or the ocean, these compounds, these PAFS, they move freely in water. And in 2 years ago, the US EPA, Great Lakes Restoration, they came up with an initiative that gave the Illinois EPA a grant to purchase equipment that is capable of analyzing PFOS in fish tissue, right? And according to the study, that study is to frequent fish water, fish contamination, and to increase the serum of PFOS levels, which is usually found in fish. So let's see what happens with that study, right? Now, I'm going to give you, as we're talking about the contamination of our waterways, we're talking about, where we can find a lot of contaminants, and we're talking about what those contaminants do to the aquatic life, specifically fish, because, fish, I think more fish is eaten more than any other aquatic life. But now let me talk to you about what types of fish that we should be consuming. All right. Before I get to that, I'm going to read out some email. We got quite a few email that came in this afternoon. It also came in prior to the show. So let me touch on the email first, and then I'm going to get back to the types of fish that we should and should not be eaten. And the first email I'm going to read, that came in from Sadie. And she says, I love fish. This is a bummer. No, Sadie, it's not a bummer. It's information. But keep on enjoying your fish. Just be aware of what you're buying and where it's coming from. Here's one from Kim, and Kim says, hey, Coxes, there are so many toxins in pure fish. but frying them kills the toxins. Huh, that's questionable. I'll tell you about that. And it improves the taste. Yeah, it might improve the taste, but I don't think it kills all the toxins. But of course, frying is not really healthy. Well, off to buy some fish and chips. Off to buy some fish and chips. All right, I'll tell you about that as well. Here's one from Olivia, and Olivia says, Fred, where is Janet fishing? Well, she's out enjoying herself. She's gone to a function, so I have to hold the fort down today. Katie says, cold water fish only, the best. I'll tell you about that as well. And here's one from Alexis, and Alexis says, Fred, no jump. When Janet jumps, she should take a photograph of her eating fish sticks. That would be a photo worth selling on your website. Happy tartar sauce. Thank you. Good. I'll remind her of that. Enjoy your fish. And here's one from Patty. Patty says, hey, Coxes, if you go to the guidelines of eating fish, you're safe. No issues. Well, depends on who's putting out that guideline. Depends on where you're reading it from. Sherry says, hey, Fred, good show today. Very informative. Fish goes back to biblical times. But of course, there was no pollution back then, except fish poop. If fish is eaten sporadically and cooked properly, the risk more than goes away with the pollutants. Thanks for sharing all of the information. Partially true. There's some fish, some types of contaminants. It does not go away with heat. And I'll tell you about that as well. Here's one from Tim. Liquid Green rules, love fish, but if you don't eat it, supplement it with fish oils. All right. I think I did mention the type of fish oil, type of omega-3 that you should get. Hi, Fred. This is from Walt. Pollution and chemicals are, in fact, the main issue of fish toxicity. Fish farms are an alternative if the fish farm does it properly. Clean water and nutrients, victims and all that a fish needs. Oh, he said that should be vitamins. Vitamins and all that a fish needs is a good option with these farms. The farms that abuse the fish with little or no room for them to swim, reproduce, etc., are not good fish farms. Natural ones are. They copy the wild water environment and are closely monitored, as close as possibly monitored. That's questionable, Walt, and I'll touch on that. Here's one from Eric. Fred, if folks must eat fish, the best 6 are below, listed by several websites. That's salmon, tuna, Pacific cod, sardines, halibut, and an eel. Not sure about the eel thing. I'll tell you about that later. Now, and I'll get into that, what's good and what ain't good. As I said, time is of the essence. So let me just quickly run down some of the fish that you should not be eating. That's shrimp, farmed shrimp. Anything farmed, as a matter of fact, you should stay away from, because it doesn't matter how environmentally clean they want to make it. It's putting fish in an enclosed area. There's a lot of stress. They're fed with chemicals and all kinds of stuff. And depending on where it's farmed, you should stay away from that, okay? There's one particular fish that's called basa, right? Basa has fibrobacteria. And that bacteria causes an estimated 60,000 illnesses and 100 deaths in the United States every year. Basa is a very popular fish that is sold in, as a fried commodity in a lot of restaurants. It tastes good. I've had it. I've tasted it. It's very, very, very meaty, and it tastes good, but it's extremely, extremely poisonous. So, stay away from that if you can. This is to answer the comment that a person made in the email. Eel. If you're going to eat eel, you got to be careful, especially if it's the moray eel. It can, it has very, very high toxins in it. The levels are so high that, it can affect you dramatically. Therefore, the smaller amount of toxins that you can have when you're eating this, it could be very, very dangerous. So please stay away from eel, especially the moray eel. And a lot of times it's served in sushi and stuff like that. So stay away from that. Catfish, imported catfish. Why you should skip this? Because it depends on where it's farmed. or where it's caught. Imported catfish are rarely inspected for filth, which includes things like rat and human hair and insects. Nearly 90% of catfish imported to the United States comes from Vietnam, where they use antibiotics and are banned in the United States. So be very, very careful if you're going to be buying catfish. Farmed tilapia, right? If you're going to eat tilapia, try to get the wild tilapia. It is worse when it's farmed. It's even worse than eating bacon. But, again, that depends on the quality of the bacon, right? The problem with tilapia is that it is highly farmed. It has small amounts of omega-3 fatty acids and is high inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids. So you got to be very careful. If you must eat this fish, avoid tilapia, which comes from China. Better sources are wild caught from Ecuador, the Netherlands, or even Peru, right? Or in the USA. Atlantic salmon. A lot of us buy salmon, folks, and you go into the supermarket or to the fish store and you ask, where's the salmon from? Oh, it's Atlantic salmon. I have always expressed caution in this Atlantic salmon thing because I know that Atlantic salmon is a rare species. It's an endangered species. So when they tell you Atlantic salmon, right away, the antenna should go up. They're talking about farmed salmon, all right? Alaskan salmon is high in omega-3 fatty acid, which are beneficial for people with MS. But not all salmons are the same, okay? Not all salmon are the same because farmed Atlantic salmon is highly, highly toxic. You don't know what they're feeding, and you don't know the conditions under which, the fish has been living in. So try to avoid that, right? Now, with salmon, there's a coloring controversy. Farmed salmon, they use a chemical that's called astaxanthin. That is to give the color. So whoever it is that's buying the salmon, they can determine what color what color they want the salmon to be, how red or how pink they want it to be. And based on that, the grade of astaxanthin is fed to the fish. Now, astaxanthin is a natural commodity that is found in the wild. So the salmon eats it, salmon and shrimp, they eat it, and that's how they get the color. That's how they get that red or pinkish color. But when they're farmed, the natural color of the salmon is gray. So they have to color it, and so they feed it with astaxanthin. Now, we don't know if it's a natural form of astaxanthin or it's a synthetic form. So you have to be careful. And that's why I recommend don't ever eat farmed fish. Don't ever eat it. If you can't, stay away from it. Stay away from the damn thing, okay? So the question is, some research says that it is good, but they're not telling you if it's the artificial or the natural astaxanthin that they're giving it. So you got to be very careful. Eat the wild salmon, okay? Then the next one is Atlantic bluefin tuna. Like salmon, not all tuna are alike, folks. Albacore white tuna has more mercury than canned light tuna. If you're buying canned light tuna, be aware that you're buying something that has mercury. Not a lot of it, but it has mercury. If you're buying albacore white tuna, be aware also that it has a hell of a lot more mercury than the canned light. And although it is still higher levels of mercury there is still higher levels of mercury with the yellowfin tuna. So that's another tuna you have to be careful with. So bluefin tuna, which is often used as sushi ingredient, unfortunately, you should stay away from that because not for the toxins, but it's overfished. It's considered to be overfished, and it's at the point of near extinction. So avoid that fish if you can. Another one that you shouldn't touch completely is the big-eyed tuna. All right, so stay away from that. The best brand of canned tuna, salmon, or sardines is Wild Planet. There's a company called Wild Planet. If you could find it in the supermarket, that's a very good brand because they are dedicated to providing sustainable products, and it's highly recommended. Another fish you definitely should stay away from is mackerel. Now, not all mackerel, but specifically the king mackerel. It is very high in omega-3s, but it's also high, it has high levels of mercury. And the Food and Drug Administration warns women specifically of childbearing age and children to avoid eating king mackerel. So be very careful of that. Sharks, skate, and rays, there's a problem with these things because shark is a predatory fish. It eats other fish. It takes very long to mature. So the reproduction is not as fast as other fish. So that's the reason. And it also could have mercury on it. Grouper. The FDA claims grouper is a good choice of fish to eat. However, it also has very high levels of mercury. Again, it's a bottom feeder. And so it picks up a lot of these sediments, a lot of these chemicals that are in the sediments of the lake or ocean. It contains, even though it contains less mercury overall, you don't want to eat more than twice per week. I'm saying stay away from it completely, because if it has mercury, mercury does not come out of the human body. Be very careful, don't touch it. Swordfish is an excellent source of omega-3. It has niacin, it has vitamin B12 and zinc, but it contains much higher levels of mercury. Again, that's a fish you need to, definitely stay away from. And there are, the eel. I think I have something on eel, why it should not be eaten. And that is because it contains a chemical in it. Where did I put that? I have that information somewhere where it has, it can cause, the chemicals in it can cause deformities and all kinds of crazy infections into human body. So you have to be careful with eel. You should not be eating it at all. There's a specific disease, and I can't, for the life of me, I can't put my hand on it right now, but it's very, very dangerous to the human body that you should not be eating it, period. I'm just looking here to see if I can find it. If I remember, I will pull it up and I will just talk about it briefly. I can't find that information, right? So again, if you're going to be eating fish, we have to be careful what it is we're buying and, where we're buying it from. Try to know where your food is coming. You see, some of these things like sushi and shrimp, they don't label the ingredients. Shrimp especially, you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know if it's farmed. You don't know if it's caught wild. So we have to be careful where we're buying fish from. If it's not labeled, in the United States or Canada, I'm saying stay away from it. Right? Oh, and that brings me to tropical fish. Now I'm from the tropics. I'm from Guyana, so we eat a lot of fish down there. But there's a toxin that's called ciguataria toxin. And this is found in tropical reef and warm water fish. So be very careful here. It can accumulate in reef fish that eat other fish. Fish that you may want to avoid from these areas, from this warm water area, are things like barracuda. Well, very few people catch a barracuda. It's a predator fish. Moray eel, as I mentioned earlier, grouper, amberjack, sea bass, sturgeon, parrotfish. Then you have surgeon fish and red snapper. A lot of people from the Caribbean, especially my friends from Jamaica and stuff, eat a lot of red snapper. Now, this toxin, ciguataria, cannot be eliminated by cooking. Someone in the email said that, oh, you can cook it and get rid of the toxin. No, my friends, not all toxins you can get rid of by cooking, right? So be very, very careful. It's ingrained in the body of the fish and you can't get rid of it. So be very careful. And now when it comes to cooking, I have to mention the healthiest cooking method is the one that retains the greatest amount of omega-3 acids and vitamins. Because why? Because they both can be lost in the cooking process. Also, the type of oils that you use to fry the fish, that you have to be careful of. Vegetable oils and those things, you know, they have a lot of stuff in them. That's a whole other show that we can get into. But you have to be careful with how you cook the fish. Coming from a West Indian background, yeah, I grew up eating a lot of fried fish, but in those days, the type of oils that we used didn't have all of the toxins that the oils have today. You didn't have that many vegetable oil. Most times we use coconut oil, or we would use ghee, Ghee, which is a very good source for frying anything at all because of the high heat content that it could withstand. Ghee could withstand up to 450 degrees. You know, other oils, vegetable oils, or whatever you're going to use, it can't. So it starts to break down. It changes the molecular structure of the oil, and that gets into the food, and, you know, more contaminants, not just from the fish, but from the oil. So we have to be very, very careful with how we are cooking. The best way, and this is my opinion, the best way, and I'm certain a lot of my listeners will agree, if you want to retain the nutrients in the fish, or even, you know, any meat at all that you're going to cook, it is better to bake or to steam it. Okay, bake it or steam it. Yeah, I know when you fry fish, you know, you season it up nice and you fry it, it's going to taste good, but don't do it too often. If you must have fried fish, don't do it too often. And, you know, even when you're going to go to the fish and chips, someone just wrote in on the email, they're going to buy fish and chips and they're going to use tartar sauce. You don't know how long that oil has been used. Could be reused oil. How often have they fried fish? Is it only fish that's being fried in the oil? So you got to be careful. Don't do it too often. If you have a craving for it, don't do it too often. I have a craving for sweet tooth, but I mean, for sweets, I don't do it too often. But so you got to be cognizant of what it is you're eating, where it's coming from. You know, I think that consumers have a responsibility to themselves to let supermarket owners know that we need to know where the food that we're buying, we're giving you your money, we're giving you our money so that you could live a comfortable life. You could send your kids to school, you could buy fancy cars, and you could buy nice real estate. We're giving you money so that you could do those things. For God's sake, respect our money. Respect the source in which the money is coming from, and label the goddamn food so we would know exactly what we're buying and where it's coming from. We need to know, because there's some parts of the world where I don't want to buy their food at all because the land is heavily toxic. The land is poisonous, and they're sending foods here that are loaded with toxins. And God forbid, if, you know, somebody gets sick, they will not take responsibility. And then we have these supposedly regulatory bodies that are supposed to be protecting us, that, you know, it's a money game. It's a money game. You have these organizations that are giving companies these certificates to say, oh, my food, you know, is recognized by this organization. It's a money game. The more money you pay, the higher the certification is going to be. And you have to pay for every product that you put out there. It's a money game. So we have to be cognizant as consumers that we know, let the producer or the provider of these foods know that you are aware of some of the toxins that some of these foods are coming with, and we need not to be buying them. All right. So folks, it's almost the end. Excuse me. It's almost the end of my show. As I said in the opener, you know, there is so much to be said on this particular topic. We only have 60 minutes, and we have several hours of information that we've put together. But I hope that this information was worthwhile, that you have learned something. And, you know, I have sown a seed in your consciousness that next time you go out to buy fish, or whether it's cooked or raw, that you will be cognizant of what it is you're doing and make a concerned choice. So with that brings us to the end of the show. And as usual, we'd like to end it by saying good health is central to human happiness and well-being. It contributes significantly to prosperity and wealth and even economic progress. And as healthy individuals, we can be more productive and even live a little bit longer. So until next Sunday, same time, same place, this is Fred on behalf of Janet saying, let's stay healthy on Reality Radio 101.
Thank you for listening to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts, Fred and Janet Cox, right here on Reality Radio 101.